What if I told you that the Dr. Eggman you know and love isn't actually human? His real name is Dr. Robotnik, so could the Robo in Robotnik actually mean he's a robot? Would you believe me if I told you that Dr. Eggman is actually just an AI wearing one of the many skins he has? Well, I'm here to tell you that yes, Dr. Robotnik is a robot, or at least was one. Today we're going to talk about the origins of Robo-Robotnik, who exists exclusively in the Archie Sonic comics. If you're a newer Sonic fan, you probably think that this is how Dr. Eggman is supposed to look like. You also probably think this is how he looked in the classic era. Well, while this may be true for the Japanese games, the American counterpart had a different look. This is how Dr. Robotnik looked for us Americans. Now, people may try to discredit this, saying that this look only appeared in the Sonic SatAM show, which is non-canon. But that isn't necessarily true. We see this version of Dr. Robotnik in some of the covers of early Sonic games such as Sonic 2. This version of him also appears in the game Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which was referenced many years later in Sonic Mania. This shows that this model wasn't just exclusive to the show, it touched official media as well. Even if we disregard it and only look at the Sonic SatAM show, that show came out in 1993, merely 2 years later from the original debut of Sonic the Hedgehog. At the same time, we have The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which aired in the same year. Many older nostalgic Sonic fans grew up with these shows. I also grew up with them too, though it was mainly only Sonic SatAM and Sonic X that I watched as a kid. Robotnik's design isn't exclusive to America though. We also have Sonic Underground, which is a French show that aired in 1999, 1 year after Sonic Adventure came out, which gave us a new look for Eggman. Regardless, this version from Sonic Underground also shared the same look as the American version, just like SatAM and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I hope that was enough to convince you guys that many see this version of Robotnik as the original, even if it didn't originate from Japan, where Sonic was created. Now that that's out the way, let's talk about his role in the longest running video game comic of all time, Archie Sonic the Hedgehog. The Archie Sonic comics are based on the Sonic SatAM show, therefore many of the concepts came from it. One of these concepts includes Robotnik himself. While the game version has the full name Dr. Ivo Robotnik, the SatAM version's real name is Julian Robotnik, though he is still referred to as Robotnik from time to time. He had a 10-year run being the dictator of the Naho Kingdom. It was up to Sonic and the Freedom Fighters to stop him and take their world back. After many battles, Robotnik's reign came to an end with his final plan for world domination, Operation Endgame. This plan involved using a machine called the Ultimate Annihilator. This machine was capable of warping or destroying reality. Around this time, Sally, Sonic's friend/lover, was perceived dead, and Sonic wanted to avenge her. This led to the final battle between Sonic and Dr. Robotnik. They were literally throwing punches at each other, both of them wanting the other dead. It was a super intense moment. In an attempt to kill Sonic with the Ultimate Annihilator, Dr. Robotnik activated it within the battlefield. However, the plan backfired because of his apprentice Snively changing the source code to only aim at Robotnik. Due to this, Robotnik was killed, completely vaporized from existence. Naho was finally free and the real Dr. Robotnik was dead. But if he died so early on in the comic, how would the comics be able to continue for more than 20 years? He would either need to be brought back from the dead, or replaced with a different Robotnik, and the latter is exactly what happened. In the Archie Sonic series, there's an entire multiverse full of alternate Sonic universes. Think of it like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but with Sonic. Heck, there's even a universe with the Spider Sonic. The main Sonic's universe is called the Prime Universe, so it's essentially the most significant world out of all the others. Other universes, which are called zones, are alternate realities based on the Prime Zone. If the Prime Zone was destroyed, then there wouldn't be any more zones being produced. So why am I bringing this up? Well, it turns out that the new Robotnik actually comes from one of those alternate zones. In his zone, he also loses to the Freedom Fighters, but it happens in a different way. This Robotnik roboticized himself to try and defeat them, but he still loses. Even though his mechanical body gets destroyed, due to being mechanical, he was able to send his consciousness digitally to one of his space stations. However, he was stuck there until he would be shut down. Fast forward a couple years later, and the two Robotniks end up meeting each other. Once they meet, Robo-Robotnik explains the situation to the original, Julian Robotnik. Regardless, Julian convinces Robo-Robotnik that he should still fight on. Robo-Robotnik is inspired by his meeting with the Prime Robotnik and decides to take action. Now, here's where things get a little complicated in the story, but I'll try to explain it as simple as possible. This Robo-Robotnik is actually an alternate version of a different Robo-Robotnik, Robo-Robotnik 1.0. Robo-Robotnik 1.0 was destroyed in a fight against Sonic and a bunch of other Sonics from across the multiverse. The issue is called Night of 1000 Sonics if you want to check it out. 1.0 created a weapon that he would use to defeat all the Sonics in the multiverse. This weapon was called the Giant Borg. At the end of the day, this machine was defeated by the Sonics, and each Sonic decided to keep a piece of the machine in their own universe so that they wouldn't come together again. Now, after 2.0's meeting with Robotnik Prime, he was able to find one of these pieces of the Giant Borg in his own universe. He used this piece to create a new body for himself. He had many options for how he wanted it to look, but he ended up choosing the one you guys are most familiar with, the one that actually looks like Dr. Eggman from the video games. Goodbye, Dr. Robotnik. Hello, Dr. Eggman. We've already established that Dr. Eggman is just Robo-Robotnik 2.0 in a human-like skin. Because of his cyborg nature, he gets these pretty cool feats that other Robotniks don't have. But first, let's talk about his standard skills. The ones that a regular Robotnik would have, such as an IQ of 300 and building machines. One prominent weapon he built was a nuclear bomb, one that he used to destroy Mobius in his own world. That's right, this Robotnik actually wins, and he even kills Sonic and the rest of the crew. He didn't really have to do anything else besides that. He really didn't have to invade Mobius Prime's world. But the only reason he did that was so that he could fill that void, the one he got when he realized he couldn't have any more fun now that Sonic was dead. He would go on to make more incredible machines in the future using his brain, but I'm sure you guys are more interested in his robotic abilities. One of the main powers he has that stands out is the ability to roboticize anything with just a touch. Think of it like a Midas touch, except instead of turning into gold, it turns into metal. If you follow the IDW comics, you probably think that sounds very familiar to the Metal Virus, and it is. It's just that Archie did it first, and Robo-Robotnik had more control over it. He used this several times in the comics, and I always thought that it looked pretty cool and menacing when he would do that. Lastly, we have the ability we already talked about. He's able to transfer his consciousness. So even if someone managed to destroy his body, he could always come back to a different person, being reincarnated but with the same mind. He was practically undefeatable. Sonic was aware of this, and knowing that he couldn't defeat Eggman, he tried to get the Zone Cops to take care of him. Zone Cops are pretty much a force that stops crimes within the multiverse, and Robo-Robotnik technically did do a crime by invading the Prime world instead of staying in his own. But Sonic the Zone Cop told Sonic that this new Eggman was needed to keep his zone in balance. So how would the Freedom Fighters ever dream to beat Robotnik? On one occasion, Dr. Robotnik, Sniffly, Sonic, and Tails were unexpectedly transported into space. They ended up on a planet with a race called the BEM. They were brought there because the BEM wanted to run an experiment to see if the flesh is superior to metal in a fight. To do this experiment, Eggman and Sniffly were transformed back into human beings instead of robots, while Sonic and Tails were transformed into mecha versions of themselves. Let me just say that I really love the mecha designs for these two. I just love it so much, and I wish I could see it again. They then ended up fighting each other, and Robotnik and Sniffly lost. Afterwards, the BAM sent Eggman and Sniffly back to Earth with their human bodies, unable to be re-roboticized again. Sonic and Tails were also transformed back to their original selves. Therefore, Robo-Robotnik lost his mechanical body, and he was now simply Dr. Eggman in the flesh. Though Dr. Eggman was now a human being, it doesn't change the fact that Eggman was still originally from an alternate universe. He's still an intruder, a false version of the real Robotnik, who died several years ago. Regardless, this new Eggman would go on to be Sonic's new rival, and it would stay that way until the end of the comic, where Eggman causes Sonic to mess up Chaos Control, making the entire multiverse collapse. It sounds like a pretty sad ending, and while there was a reboot, the comics ended up getting cancelled. The most important thing to take away from this is that Robotnik had a second chance in life, and he didn't want it to end in winning for a long time. He already lived a life where he killed Sonic, and it led to him becoming bored and depressed. That's why when he took the role as the new Eggman, he only did it out of fun, and in reality he could have possibly defeated the Freedom Fighters at any moment that he wanted. But he didn't because he wanted to enjoy his reign over Mobius. And this is peak Eggman personality. This is the type of Eggman that we see in the games and other media. It only makes him seem more of a threat, and Sonic and friends should be grateful that he didn't end them when he had the chance to. There are a ton of stories from the Archie Sonic series that can be told, and I want to share them with you all. I know nowadays people like to hate on the series, but there are many who are just questioning it, wondering why some things appear so out of context. If you guys have any other Archie Sonic topics that you want me to discuss, let me know in the comment section down below. Until then, be cool, be wild, and be groovy.